I'm Lindsay. I'm your Miro host today. I'm on the product marketing team, and I'm really excited to introduce our awesome facilitators, Roxanne and Yost. To give you a little background on our two awesome facilitators, Roxanne is a full spectrum product designer who has spent the last 5 years in organization transformation and application modernization. She has over 10 years in research, design, facilitation, and consulting, and she also worked within diversity and inclusion in the technology sector. Roxanne, we're so glad to have you. And Yost is is founder of Limelights and a Miro expert. He is a facilitator of change and a sustainability strategist. Yost, we're so excited to have you here today as well to lead us through the workshop. And with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you guys to take it from there, and we can get started.
Thank you so much, Lindsay, and welcome everyone. Welcome from New York City. As Lindsay said, my name is Roxanne Mustafa. I work at VMware as a product design lead, and I'm going to start sharing my screen. So today we are here to workshop meeting facilitation techniques. And now that we are in virtual settings, we find ourselves holding these meetings in a digital format and trying to replicate what we used to have in real life. I hope that from this meeting, from this workshop, that you'll take some really good best practices from real life meeting settings, as well as some new techniques and mental models for virtual meetings. So this is my Miro board, so I'm going to start presenting. My slides are right here. Like I said, my name is Roxanne Mustafa. I'm a product design lead for VMware. I also was a tech consultant for a lot of Fortune 500 companies. We were really quickly ideating on new products, greenfield products for a lot of these companies. I also worked on the developer experience end for Cloud Foundry, which is a cloud infrastructure platform. And then I was a UX designer in a past life, just working in startups and design agencies and so forth. I love to talk about what I do now just briefly. I work in the world of virtual containers. VMware is known for virtual machines. It's when we were sort of virtualizing servers to be more efficient on VMs years and years ago. Now we're working in the style of Kubernetes, which is a virtual container. And really this is helping enterprise modernization modernize their fleets of applications on the app side as well as the platform side. And this is a big thing for today's day and age. Everyone needs to modernize. So little fun fact about me, well, maybe two fun facts and one not so factual. So we're going to play two truths and a lie. And I would love for you in the chat, along with like introducing yourselves and continuing to tell us where you're from and what your title is, maybe you could tell me which one you think is the lie. So the first fact or lie is I have 56 first cousins. Number two is being from Staten Island. I'm originally from Brooklyn, but I'm from Staten Island now. I have connections with the Godfather movies. And number three, I used to be a hip hop recording engineer. I'd love to hear which one you think is the lie, and please write the number in the chat. How is that possible? So a lot of number twos. Curious.
Oh, it's a draw between hip hop and Staten Island Godfather, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should I tell them now, Yost?
I think so. What is it?
Well, it is true that I have 56 first cousins. I come from a huge family. It is also true that I was a recording engineer. I used to be a mix and a recording engineer in New York City for a lot of great hip hop artists. It was the best 8 years of my life. So the lie is that I do not have connection with the Godfather movies, except that I'm a huge Godfather fan, huge. So thanks for playing. Okay, moving on. Yost, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, sure. So a very short introduction. I'm the founder of Limelight, and we help the people that change their companies. We empower them. So we mainly help large corporates to change, to become more inclusive and more sustainable, which is a hell of a job because, it's a big transformation for large corporates. So we do that for companies like Heineken International, Booking.com, Sigenta, really trying to change complex matrix organizations. And we do that with leadership summits, impact sprints, and facilitative change trainings. And Miro is our go-to tool that we spend really a lot of time with, and we also really train people to utilize better. If you're interested to connect, there's a QR code that you can always go back to, and that's it for me. And I also have two truths and one lie. So I'm curious. Don't look at my face. So my father is Japanese. I'm married to a Mexican woman. My first job was a yacht instructor in Greece. What is the little lie? 3, 1, 3. 3, 1, 3. Oh, okay, 1, 2, yeah.
I can't wait to hear this one.
Yeah, so it goes to between 1 and 3, I believe. Oh my God. What do you think, actually, Roxanne? I didn't tell you.
I think the lie is that your father is Japanese.
Yeah, I was indeed a yacht instructor in Greece, and I am married to a beautiful Mexican woman, and I'm not half Japanese now. I wish I was, actually, though.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you, everyone, for having a little fun with us. Why are we here? We want to show you how we can merge best practices in meeting facilitation with the interactivity of digital tools to increase engagement as well as alignment in a virtual setting. What I hope that you'll take away from these sessions is that you'll get to review some meeting basics and facilitation basics that you can really take with you no matter what type of meeting you're having, whether it's a workshop or a one-on-one meeting or a meeting with stakeholders. Really, these facilitation techniques transcend any kind of meeting. And I hope that this framework of how to run a meeting and what the goals of a meeting are can also help you in either a digital or IRL in real life. And I want to also hope, I also hope that you can see how Miro and Zoom together can enhance gaining alignment and getting buy-in. So our agenda is we'll go over some ground rules. We'll review the tools just to make sure everybody has the same expectations with the tools. We'll cover some Miro basics, make sure you know how to navigate Miro. Maybe you might learn something that you didn't know, but we'll cover that pretty quickly. Then we'll kind of brainstorm some meeting challenges that you all have just to see what the sort of range of experiences are. We'll go over some facilitation tips and best practices, and then we'll have a mock meeting. We're gonna get really meta. We're gonna have a meeting within a meeting within a meeting. And then finally, we'll have a retrospective at the end. So we'll reflect, and I'll show you one retrospective technique.
The inception of Miro, no? The inception levels, meeting in a meeting in a meeting in a meeting.
That's right, just like the movie. We'll cover some ground rules first. We will be moving fast due to time. We want to cover everything, and hopefully you'll get the recording so you can rewind and go back to anything you might have missed. Please use the chat, but use it in a respectful and inclusive way. It's great to share your pronouns. It's great to be mindful of your peers and your colleagues. And I like to say, always use Zoom etiquette when you're on a Zoom meeting. Some tips that I use is when you are speaking or someone asks a question, wait 3 seconds to give a chance for the room to answer first, especially if you tend to always be the first person to speak. Be brief and concise when you speak. I find that can be quite challenging when one person sort of monopolizes the time. And if we're all being mindful of brevity, then everyone will get a chance to speak. Keep yourself on mute until you're ready to speak. We're hoping to hear some of your voices, and I see all of you are on mute, so I really appreciate that. Try to use the raise hand feature if you have a burning question or something was very unclear. But in general, we prefer for you to put your questions in the chat. We have a bunch of moderators as well as Joost co-moderating, co-facilitating with me who can really help answer your questions. But feel free to let us know if we're moving too fast and we'll try to slow down. Okay, so again, the tools. For me, the best virtual meeting setup is 2 screens. I don't know if you can see, I like to kind of be meta about this, but right now I'm able to look at the whole gallery full of people, and I can use Zoom to switch to between speaker and gallery mode. And then I can look at my second screen, and it's a bigger screen for Miro. So my workspace is my second screen, similar to the way I would use a whiteboard in the room. A whiteboard would be on one side, and then I would have my presentation on another side. So it's very similar. So Zoom and Miro make a wonderful marriage for a virtual meeting. 2 screens is ideal. And again, as we all know, we need fast, stable internet connections. Ethernet is so stable and reliable, but I've been trying these mesh protocols for Wi-Fi routers, and I really wanted to shout them out and say they're really good. Right now, I'm on a Wi-Fi network. I'm not on a landline, and I find the connection so stable. Okay, so let's get meta for a second. Pause. What just happened? We went through a lot. We went through our agenda and we covered the 3 things. We welcomed everyone, we had objectives, and we set up ground rules and norms. This is really about how we set the stage. We want to be clear and transparent about our agenda. We want to let our audience know what they're here for. What are you all here spending your precious time to gain? And I need to be clear as a facilitator of what you're here to gain from me. So setting clear expectations, not overshooting and saying that we're going to solve problems, is the name of the game. Establishing group norms in a virtual meeting is very important. I think we're all social beings, and we know what has worked in the past in real life and what hasn't. A virtual setting is a little bit different. And sometimes restating group norms or expectations, it doesn't hurt. It helps equalize and set the stage for everyone. We did an icebreaker, and we got a lot of nice participation. So icebreakers come in many forms. We use the chat to increase engagement, right? Lindsay right away said, welcome, tell us where you're from. This is a great way to break the ice, especially when you have such a big forum. And we use several Miro features without you even really knowing them. One feature that I used is the notes feature right here, just to set up this board. So this is an equivalent of a Google Doc that kind of worked behind the scenes, where Joost and I kind of set the outline up of the board. I'm using frames. So each slide has a frame, a Miro frame, and then I put it in presentation mode so that I can kind of walk through my frames one by one. But even without presentation mode, I'm using the slides here to go from one slide to the next, similar to how you use PowerPoint or Google Slide. So I like Miro for the way I would use a Google Slide or a PowerPoint. I would love for folks to think about Miro as a substitute for maybe a Google Slide that you have or a presentation on some slide software with stakeholders. This can be just as effective, and maybe even more so, because I can export these and share them later with my team, just like I would with a Google Slide. Okay, so that is our introduction. Let's start practicing. Everyone should have a link to this Miro board. I see that 70 people are in.
I shared it also again in the chat for the people that were not in yet.
Wonderful. And Joost, I will let you take it from here.
Yeah, sure. Let's see. I see 24 people in, and that's almost everybody. So 36 are in the Zoom. So let's give it a moment to bump up the number of participants in the Miro board. So you find a link in the chat of the Zoom.
I'll just add that I'll add a little pro tip here. So right now I am presenting and I'm controlling the board, but what I'll do is I'll double click on Joost's name. And now I'm following Joost's screen. So he's controlling the board and my presentation mode is following him. So Joost, just show that if you zoom in or out what that might look like, or if you pass.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so it's really a very useful tool as a facilitator. So you can always say, bring everyone to me. So that's what I'm doing now. And what we're going to do is give you just a crash course, which is really like just 3 basic steps. If you're new in Miro, and that is how to navigate the board, how to zoom in and zoom out, and then grab a sticky and say something to the world. So the first thing is to navigate. You see that on the left you have a toolbar with actually all the options in it, from sticky notes to shapes to icons even if you want. And then the top one is a little arrow or it's a little hand. You can click on the top one, the arrow, and then it becomes a little hand, and you can just pull the board anywhere you want and move it around. So that's, I think, a great tool. If you don't want to change anything and you want to have a look at the board, just go to the hover modus. So then, yeah, you can just zoom over everywhere you want. Then the second one is zooming in and zooming out. So if you have a mouse, you can just use the scrolling wheel, try it out and zoom in and zoom out. And if you have a trackpad, you can just pinch. If you don't have a trackpad or a mouse, I have no idea what you're using, but there's also in the right bottom corner, there is the zoom in and zoom out. You can do the plus and the minus. So there's 3 options to zoom in and zoom out. And then you can see everywhere you want. So maybe it's nice to zoom out a little bit. And then you see what a great campus Miro built, where you see the whole workshop where we go through. And now this is just a 1-hour workshop, but obviously if you do a whole innovation project of months, this can still be the same. You have the whole project in one board, which is kind of amazing. So let's see if everybody is writing stickies. I do see a lot of things already here. Ciao from Italy. Hello, Josephine here. So you can or make a sticky note by using the toolbar or just pull one from the stack here. So I am writing. You can, I don't know, write whatever you want. Let me see.
I love the icons that some folks added. That's great.
Just a quick check-in. So maybe somebody's completely new in Miro. If you have any struggles, we're a small group here, so don't hesitate to unmute and give a yell, because we want to make sure that everybody is included in this session.
Yes, and feel free to direct message Joost if you're having trouble. Hi, fellow Miro collaborators. Loving the icons.
Nice. Yeah, that was it actually, about the 3-step crash course.
That's great. So I see there's a lot of power users here. There's someone who's using the pencil tool. This is great. Moshi Moshi. That person must be from Japan. Welcome. Bunch are from Quebec. Awesome. So this is another way to increase engagement if you don't want to do it in the chat, and hopefully everyone has some familiarity with Miro, but it's a great way to break the ice for some folks. So this could be a way for you to gauge the room and see what kind of participation you might have. If there is someone having a little trouble, you could ask your co-facilitator to kind of take them offline and get them comfortable. I've had stakeholder meetings where pretty VIP people are not really comfortable saying that, hey, I don't know how to use a sticky. So you want to create a space even for our VIP people to feel comfortable, and offering direct messaging or going through a tutorial together like we just did, so that everybody is in the same space and the same level, helps bring the others that are on the edges along with us.
Yeah, and if I can add on that, sometimes you have less tech-savvy people, and then we sometimes block like a 1-hour session the day before or even a week before to just get them comfortable with it, because especially senior leadership that might be not that good with computers, it feels stressy for them in a workshop, but if they do it in advance, they are completely comfortable and they can just focus on the content.
Well, in that, regard, maybe we could just pause and say, if anyone is comfortable to unmute themselves and say, hey, I'm not quite comfortable with this yet, please feel free to do so. We'll pause for a few seconds to see, no pressure. And that way we'll make sure that we can bring everyone along to the next session. So is there anyone who needs a little help with greeting? I mean, honestly, I'm seeing a lot of pro users here, drawings and stuff, but it is okay if you don't.
Even.
Okay. All right, great. So we're going to move on to the next board, which is where we're going to now start talking about meetings. And in the same way you all did your greetings and added sticky notes, I would love for you all to dump and sort your ideas on what some of the biggest meeting challenges have been for you. And I would love it if you could have one idea per sticky. Please follow my face, double click on my face if you want to follow my mouse, and I'll be right here waiting for you. And I am going to set a timer for, I said 2 minutes, but actually I'm going to do 1 minute and 30 seconds and see how we do. And everyone go ahead and write, what are some of the biggest meeting challenges that you've had, either in real life or in digital space? And the timer starts now. You have about 40 seconds left. You can write as many ideas or challenges as you like. You have 15 seconds. Okay, and you all should have heard the timer go off. I love that gentle Miro timer, it's lovely. And what we did is we just got a pulse of the room or a temperature check. I see a lot of challenges around engagement or lack of engagement, a lot of plus ones and dittos. I also see a lot of like distractions. People are less comfortable to get engaged in the Miro tool. Yeah, we just talked about that comfort level, right? For the person who wrote getting those less comfortable to engage in collaboration tools, for example, Miro, do you mind sharing, if you are able to unmute yourself, what do you think is the blocker to the comfort level?
Thanks for picking up my note. I think that the main blocker is just a lack of comfort of technology in general, or like feeling like you're gonna mess it up.
Yeah.
I think is the main thing. I actively encourage Miro use at my organization. I think it's a wonderful tool, and certainly helpful for getting those engaged that are not engaged in the meeting to participate. We've used them for workshops, and so it's just a wonderful tool.
Yeah, so it sounds like, Leo, Miro has helped be a mitigator for some of the lack of engagement. Miro has helped accentuate it a little bit. Is there one particular thing or one feature in Miro that you find really able to pull people into a session?
I think the stickies is the easiest thing that people can kind of grab onto. It's like, oh, I know how to do this. Okay, I can write on a sticky. So what I try to do is like create a framework where people feel comfortable to just add their own stickies. So sort of set up the board ahead of time with like content that I feel like will entice that engagement.
Yeah, that's great. Leo, thank you so much for sharing. I think we've all experienced that problem before. And for those of us that like Miro, like Joost and I, we do feel like it adds to increases the level of engagement. But there's some things that Miro can't fix, right? Like the time difference. That really has to do with facilitation and trying to find that sweet spot in time. One thing I do is sometimes when there's a big time difference for a specific team, I do ask if there's a block of time that we can start scheduling meetings. So then I know that block will be, that we can have workshopy times, workshopy lengths type meetings, and we're all in agreement.
Richard, your hand was up, I think. Did you want to ask something?
Well, just connecting back with what Leo was saying, my experience is that people often feel overwhelmed too when they're jumping into Miro for the first time. And I've had a little bit of difficulty. They get lost in the board, even though I show them the navigation panel and how they can find themselves, and I bring them back to me, but they still get lost very easily. And I think they just feel overwhelmed. So that's a hurdle that I'm still trying to get over in getting people to use it.
Did you already discover the hide tool that you have this little eye, and if you click on it, it actually hides all the content, and that's for people that are easily overwhelmed. Indeed, you know, there's everything. There's actually a little button, and you can actually hide complete frames. So you can even start with almost completely empty Miro board, which really helps with making people feeling less overwhelmed. Maybe you can show that, Roxanne, in the screen.
I actually don't know that, Joost.
Oh, all right. Okay, yeah, it's really useful. It's just a little eye with eyelashes, and if you click on it, it hides all the content. And with
Where
one
is
click,
the eye? Where is the eye?
So this
yeah, if you have a frame or anything.
Yeah, this feature is based on frames. So a frame is those rectangles on the side, those are frames, and you put them around content. Now, if you are a board owner, so I'm not sure if Roxanne, you're this board owner, so you may not see the feature, but if you are a board owner, you can click on those three dots and hide the frame. It looks like you're not the board owner here, but any boards you're an owner of, you can hide those frames.
Well, that sounds like a great technique to kind of reduce the noise and the cognitive load for some people that may be tech averse. And really the thing that we want to encourage with all of our meetings in real life and in virtual is how do we sort of disambiguate and demystify the tools that we're using. I think we all remember in the beginning of the pandemic, Zoom was a big like onboarding. There was a massive onboarding of people outside of our domains, our digital domains. There was also a massive onboarding of digital tools. So whatever we can do to sort of demystify these tools is a good way to, and we kind of gave you a couple of examples of what we do. I want to move along a little bit. I want to say how it's really great to see that some of the challenges are challenges in real life too. Like we don't come up with a decision, we don't have outcomes, or speaking over each other. We all know that in Zoom, this could be quite clunky. And that people get confused or people feel pressure to attend. We're going to go over some facilitation best practices that I think will cover some of these. The obvious multitasking. Sometimes it's great to be able to say to everyone, and I didn't do it in this session because you're all obviously here to participate in a conference, but in a meeting, sometimes I say to folks, can you please put your notifications, turn your notifications off, turn your phone upside down. We need full engagement. I have the biggest challenges with my stakeholders on this. I've been ideating a lot with some really senior people as a designer, and it's been really challenging to pull them into a Miro workshop session. I could see them looking at their email and I could hear the dings in the background. And what I think helps is just to call it out gently, to let folks know that you are aware and you do require their attention. And this is a technique that I would do in real life too, right? I would say to folks, here's your phone, please turn it upside down and put it on silence. So we do it in real life, we can do it in a virtual setting. Too many back-to-back meetings, being in the wrong meeting or not feeling, this is going to be covered in some facilitation best practices. And was there anything else, Joost, that you see that maybe might be worth pausing on to talk about?
No, I think actually the obvious multitasking is really something that bothers a lot of people. And I think as a facilitator, you can play a real good role in that. And your sessions, your meetings just have to be captivating and inspiring and fast-paced. Then everybody stops multitasking.
Yeah, there is a bit of a design to meetings, and that's what we're going to go over today. All right. So again, meta moment, let's pause. What just happened? We had an interactive board where everyone was represented. Everyone had a space to be able to contribute their ideas, their challenges, their pain points. And this gave the meeting a sense of movement. I hope that you felt that sense of movement. If you didn't, I probably didn't do a good job, and that's okay to say that too. But that's what we're shooting for. We also did a dump and sort, right? So everyone dumped their ideas or brainstormed their ideas, and it was rapid fire of ideas. And while you were ideating on your ideas as an audience, Joost and I and the other facilitators were grouping them. This is a great technique. It's really good for conversation synchronously, and then being able to come back and see what kind of ideas were generated in the themes we captured. So you might need a little bit of time to marinate or synthesize these ideas, but it'll always be there. It's static. It's not like a whiteboard with ideas that you then eventually have to erase. We allowed all of you to share your thoughts without conversation and asynchronously, but we pulled out some key ideas and had some great participation. This is a way to pull the audience in. And Leo and the other gentleman that spoke, we were able to pull you in and you were able to give us feedback. So this is really what we're looking for. When I ask the room, like who wrote this idea? It's a technique to try to get more engagement. And if we had more time and allotted more time, we would ask people to speak up a little bit more on their ideas. And again, in terms of inclusivity and kindness and respect, if someone doesn't feel willing to share, that's okay too. You have to be able to move on as a facilitator. And notice that we time boxed. It's a technique in design that I notice is happening in meetings all the time, but by time boxing yourself, you're getting your quick array of ideas and on a subconscious level. So I was able to take your temperature on meeting challenges and get a wide variety, a wide spectrum of thoughts and challenges without you really consciously thinking about it. Okay, great. So let's get into some meeting best practices. I'm going to just pause for a second and see if anyone has any questions about what we just covered. Feel free to take yourself off of mute.
Hi, I have a quick question. So
Sure.
we often do the sticky exercise with my team, but I mean, almost every single time there's a sticky that doesn't make sense. And usually it's the one that would lead to the most provocative conversation, the conversation that we need to have. And you ask if someone could speak up or maybe elaborate a little bit more. And maybe it's because there's spelling errors or because the way that they've worded it is just confusing for others. As a facilitator, I don't think it's my role to assume what they mean by their post-it. So it's difficult for me when people are unwilling to speak up, but it's a conversation that could be really, really great for the group.
Maya, that's such a great point, and we've all found ourselves there, right? Let me try to unpack this question a little bit. Sometimes there's a sticky that is relevant, as you're saying, and it's a little bit, it has a little bit of like weight to it that someone's not comfortable, but sometimes there's the stickies that aren't relevant. I think we all might know, or maybe another technique is to parking lot it. The parking lot is effective for things that are not relevant that maybe we need to talk about later, but that are also really relevant that require more time and sensitivity and care that we need to talk about later. So the facilitator, it's a great point that you said you don't feel the responsibility to be able to share someone else's thought. So the first thing that I do is someone willing to share? Like you said, you pose the question to the room as an open question so that nobody feels the pressure. Oftentimes when there is a sticky like this, I do notice that people don't want to share. I do attempt to unpack it if I can, but you're right. Sometimes it's weighty and heavy, and it requires that person's perspective. So I would qualify it. I think this sticky is about topic, heavy topic X, Y, and Z. I think that this is something that we need to discuss at another session. I'm going to put it in the parking lot and we're going to come back to it.
I love the parking lot suggestion. That's awesome because maybe that person just needs a minute to really digest and process and they'll feel more comfortable speaking to it later.
You're exactly right. And you have to, as a facilitator, make sure you go back to your parking lot items. Either you're calling out that you're going to the parking lot items at the end of the session to see if you've missed anything, or you're going to create an action item is for you to create space to have this conversation. I've had this challenge with D&I type topics, DE&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion, when I'm facilitating tough sessions where people are sharing their experiences. And it could be quite, we can have a specific topic, but you can clearly see there's something that needs more attention and sensitivity. The parking lot lets people know we're going to come back to this, but you have to be responsible to that person's thought and say, and actually come back to it, which can be very hard. So your co-facilitator should be helping you with the parking lot.
If I can add one thing on it, for sessions that we know that are very complex and difficult, we actually have under the Miro board, we always have a physical parking lot. So you can actually really take the sticky note, whoop, put it in the parking lot so people really see it happening. And there's one sentence that I use a lot as facilitator, and that's, let's pause this discussion. And that pause means like, oh, we'll go on one day. But I mean, you will, as a facilitator, you always have to pause discussions and move on because you are the timekeeper and you have to make sure that's a successful meeting with results. So those two things are nice tips, I think.
I want to offer now another quick suggestion in the alternative. If you choose to make room for this conversation that you know may go off, may kind of open a Pandora's box. I've often been given feedback by my co-facilitators that, oh, we shouldn't have like opened that door. But I'm of a thought or a philosophy that some conversations need to be started. And if there's a momentum in the room and an energy in the room, and sometimes if I feel like this topic needs to continue, I give it some time. But then I say, I see this is an important topic. I'm going to give it 5 minutes. Yost, can you put 5 minutes on the timer? And then I just wait.
For someone to, yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
No problem. Okay, so let's talk about.
Sorry, could I just ask a quick question. When people add stickies, I've always had to ask them to add their initials so you can figure out who said it. Can you do that automatically? Because people inevitably forget as well.
You can do it automatically. Well, it's a little manual at first, and then it becomes automatic. And who was that? Sal?
Sal, yeah. Hi.
Yes. So if you were to pick a sticky, I'll show you really quickly, and I'm going to make it really big. I was just showing you this, and if I was to say hi, and everyone has an orange sticky, a technique I use is tags. So if I opened the tag, I entered my name, I created a tag, and that tag exists there now for all eternity, for the whole session.
Right.
And therefore, if I could then duplicate that sticky, option click drag, and then the tag will be there. Or I could change the tag and say, this is actually Yoast. And then I could close mine. And that's one technique to be able to identify stickies.
Okay.
Yeah, it's also
That's
really
great.
useful if you have bad ideas, just change the tag and push it to somebody else.
I'm always, Sal, I have to say, I try to pick and choose when I want identifiers of stickies in a session. Sometimes you create more of a psychologically safe space if people don't have their identifiers on there. And then the ideas become equal weight, right? If you have, like, I know my stakeholder, she has a lot of weight. And if I knew certain stickies were hers, I actually do want to over-index towards her ideas because she's our stakeholder. But it doesn't give other people who are sort of below her the opportunity to have equal voice. So it's a technique to equalize the room.
I want to add one quick tip as well for facilitators. If someone didn't add their name or add a tag and you want to see whose sticky it is, you can click on the 3 dots on that sticky and click on info, and you will be able to see who created the sticky. So the 3 dots and then info, who created the sticky. And then if you already created all the stickies ahead of time, you can see who edited it last. So that can be a good little trick. You don't need to tell your participants that information is there, but if you want to kind of just see who that was.
Oh my gosh, Lindsay, I love that. That's a great tip. Incognito then. All right. Any last minute questions before we move on? Awesome. Okay, thank you for your questions, folks. Okay, so what's a facilitator's job? A facilitator's job is to move the conversation from point A to point B. Our goal is to it's like a destination, and you have to know what your point A is and your point B is to get the right people in the room and to be able to facilitate the conversation to point B. So being explicit about where we are and where we want to be can be a very implicit technique to help keep you on track. You want to know what the outcome is or the tone of the outcome, but you're not there to have all the answers. You're there to just guide the conversation to the general sense of where it should go. So, point A is a really good place to think about explicitly in your head as a facilitator. And when you're designing your meeting or your workshop, do you have everything you need? What are the conditions that are required to have a useful conversation? Who are the people that are required in the room? What kind of engagement do you have? Is it sort of an executive type preaching out, or is it a consensus building type meeting? These are the questions you should be asking yourself for your point A. Your point B is what are your action items? What do you need to arrive at that decision? So some of the responsibilities can be in this JOF framework. I can't even say it, but it is helpful for me to remember it. GEOFP. Your responsibilities as a facilitator, or I would call it a meeting designer, is to get the right people in the room, to be able to extract the domain knowledge or the information. And again, domain knowledge doesn't mean expertise. You all have domain knowledge in meeting challenges, but you don't have to be a meeting facilitator to experience that. Your job as a facilitator is to help organize the information, and you see how I needed my co-facilitators to help me keep the conversation moving. And then we try to keep the conversation focused, right? We want to make sure that we address the needs of the point A to the point B so that we can respect everybody's time in the room. So that's very important. And you're looking for prompt incremental decision making with prompts. So you're prompting the incremental decision making, and you're going to kind of see how we do that in a mock meeting. I'm always thinking about what is the question or the open-ended question that I need to ask the room to pull information. So some of the challenges that people said about engagement, a well-crafted prompt or open-ended question is usually very good technique. And think Socratic method. So I think Socratic method is a fancy way of saying ask a therapist question. I don't know. We're all have been in therapy, I hope, at least once in our lives. And there's a way that therapists ask questions to pull information. You have to think like a therapist. And in the end, it kind of becomes like a Socratic seminar. What do you think? Who has challenges? Who has positive experiences? Is anyone comfortable to share them? You know, those are the kind of open-ended questions that can be well-framed prompts. And remember, you are a passive leader. I am not leading this meeting, I am facilitating this meeting. So I'm acting as a focal point for everyone, but I'm not sort of an executive order or de facto leader. I'm here to be a part of a group as a team building exercise. So some co-facilitator responsibilities, and again, implicit in this is that you should have a co-facilitator in a real life and in virtual settings. I find that I need co-facilitators more in virtual settings. A co-facilitator can have a range of responsibilities, and this kind of covers a bunch of things in real life and in virtual. So, you know, I paired with Joost to kind of shoot some ideas around, and he was a sounding board to me. I used him as idea generator and for feedback. The co-facilitator's job is to kind of read the room too. So Joost is just checking the chat, looking at your faces, making sure that I don't miss anything. And this is a really important task, especially if you think of yourself as a meeting facilitator that's empathetic. You want to make sure that the energy of the room is right as you move your meeting along. And as a facilitator, you can't do it all. You can't be everywhere, even IRL. In IRL, a co-facilitator, I ask them to please read the room. Or if I'm co-facilitating, I often say to my facilitator, if there's fatigue in one area, I would say something like, I think it's time to move on, or why don't we move to the next section, or time check. Time check is code for, we're gonna have to wrap this up, let's move on to the next section. So there's the next bullet, to be a time cop. There's a good cop and a bad cop. The co-facilitator sometimes can be the bad cop. I hate that analogy. But you know, co-facilitators can be the ones to kind of stop the conversation to move it along based on time.
We actually have to move on if we want to make everything. Half an hour left.
Perfect timing, Joost. Okay, and I think that you can see the rest of the responsibilities. Now,
can I add on one? And that's, I think, very important, especially if you do leadership sessions. There's always some person entering 15 minutes late because something more urgent popped up. And I think one of the really nice benefits of having a co-facilitator is that you can onboard these people in the chat, private messages. Just say, here we are in the session, here we are on the board, join us.
I love it. So quickly, we'll go through, you know, how to get from point A to point B. It's sort of a diamond shape. You're going wide and then you're going narrow. You're extracting, then you're organizing, and then you're prompting incremental decision making. So some of the techniques for prompting is like we did a dump and sort or silent generation. I might have you all think about things and then talk about the top 1 or 2 ideas you want to share. These are all just idea generators, and you want to go wide and see where the room is. But again, the prompt has to stay focused on where point B is, where you're going. The organized section is really about the facilitation, the facilitators facilitating themes so that we can see broad strokes of what's happening in the room with the ideas. So we're trying to get winnow down and get narrow. And some of the techniques that I often use are the affinity or the category filters. So I look at things through certain lenses. A Venn diagram could be really helpful. Like say you had ideas on what skills you wanted, and one circle was product management, one circle was technical skills, and one circle was design. The ideas can start to fall in these things, and you could see sort of the overlap. And scoring is another technique. And finally, The decision making is the ability to get the room to narrow down on one or two things after you've created sort of consensus on what the winnowed down artifacts are. Sometimes it could be a stack rank, like we ask the room to rank things and what we see as the top becomes the winner. We could do a 2x2, which we'll show an example of later. We could do a dot vote, which we'll also show an example of later. And one of my favorites for quick decision making is Roman vote. So an example of a Roman vote is I would ask all of you that have your camera on, who wants to move on and who wants to drop off and who's not sure. So Roman vote, yes, no, or I'm not sure. So I can ask you all right now, who would like to move on, who would like to drop off, and who isn't sure? Great. Convenient that you all said move on. Wonderful. That is a way to get like a quick decision as well as it's a good temperature check. How are you all feeling? Good, bad, meh? All right. So let's have a meeting. Our point A is that we have a lot of people here and we want to order dinner and get to know each other and we want to eat together virtually. But we all live in different locations and we have different tastes and we have different budgets, different needs. How do we decide together what to eat for dinner tonight? So the objective is to decide what we're going to have for dinner tonight. We're all going to order the same thing and we're going to come up with one meal. So the prompt for the meeting is, what is a type of food or meal that you would like to eat for dinner today? So what we're going to do is we have about 34 participants. I guess that'll mean just a few people in a room, which is actually not bad. We're going to divide you all into breakout rooms in Zoom. And your Zoom room will correspond to a section on the board. And each of these Miro frames will correspond to your room number. And what we'd like you to do in each of your rooms, I guess we won't have 25 people, we'll have less. We'll have about 6 or so people in a room, maybe less. What we'll do is we'll have you ideate. Each of you pick the 3 foods that you like silently and putting stickies on. Then together you can group them by affinity, category, or whatever trend that you see. And then I would love for you all to decide as a group which are the 3 foods that had the most frequency or intensity in your breakout room. And then when you come back to the main room, I'll ask one person to share what the 3 final foods were. I'm going to pause. Does anyone have any questions about what's about to happen right now? So in a few seconds, we'll organize you all into breakout rooms, and one of the moderators will just kind of pop in. You have 5 minutes to do this activity. So I want you as a group, you don't need one person to be a facilitator, but if you would like, you could certainly do that. But I really want you to time box your activity so that by the end of 5 minutes, you have 3 results. And I've given you some buffer time and some ideas of a framework. 1 minute for ideating, 2 minutes for group affinity. Okay, shall we? Okay, Ashley, thank you for organizing the breakout rooms. So in a few seconds, Ashley's going, well, and there everybody goes. Bye. Hi. So I'm just going to do a time check real quick before I go into a room. So this will be 5. So it'll bring us to 1:45 and then 10 minutes for prioritizing. Yeah, we're just going to make it.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, this will go faster. We can even maybe skip a step, I thought.
Virtually meet you guys. We are breakout room number 1. Everyone has access to the board. All right. So let's do this. Technical issues.
If you just double click on the note, you can type text on it.
That is exactly correct. Awesome. So we are going to add 3 types of food that we like, and then we're going to start grouping the categories after that. So just start adding the types of food that you like. I'm someone who likes anything with meat, cheese, and bread. So that's a lot of things. Burgers, sandwiches, pizza, all of that stuff. It's the trifecta. I can share my screen too, if that works for you guys. Where are you guys joining from?
Sweden.
Sweden, very cool. I'm in Austin, Texas, myself.
Czech Republic.
I'm in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Cool. All right. Looks like we have some people that are grouping the items together. I think this is kind of very similar. These are like more ethnic foods. Pineapple cake. Is that like a pineapple upside down cake?
Yes.
Oh, very cool. That's my dad's favorite.
It's delicious. We do it in a cast iron skillet.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Cool. So that looks like more desserts, burgers. Kind of. I think this is kind of more healthy. How does that look? Pretty good? Awesome.
It's always interesting to see the different ways people categorize.
Would you have done it a different way? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I was thinking like entrees, sides, and desserts.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I kind of went with like more ethnic foods, kind of. This is like, I guess, more American, traditional, healthy, and then desserts. Cool, cool,
I think it looks good.
Awesome. So we are going to group according to a type of category. Step 4. Pick the 3 foods that had the most frequency. We have 30 seconds left, so hopefully we're winding down. Burgers, yep. Any that had the most frequency?
I think if we'd have had 25 people, that would have been more likely. Oh,
Yeah.
our 5 minutes is up.
It's okay.
Something from the first.
I think we're all about burgers and sandwiches and things. I guess General Tso's chicken. That's more.
But something from the first group.
And then pick 3 with the most frequency. Step 5.
Everyone good with having one dessert?
Yeah, I think that works fine.
The cake sounds good.
Good.
Chicken,
Awesome.
chicken, general chicken.
General Tso's chicken.
Why not?
I'll plus one. I'll add a plus sign to that.
Yeah.
All All right. Well, thanks, guys. It looks like we're heading back to the main room, and I'll catch you guys in there.
I'll make a joke that when thinking about the prompts, I was polling my family, and my pharmacist sister-in-law said, you should ask everyone to have a meeting on how to get kids back in school safely after COVID. And I said, maybe not that one. We're going to go light here.
That would be a very deep discussion.
Very deep. As a parent, it's one that I do not want to have right now.
Yep.
Is everyone back? I think everyone is back. See, 28 participants. Okay, so we did great. I see that there's 3 items for each room. I would love to start with room 1. Can one person share out what they winnowed down to?
I'll share. So we didn't have any repeats, probably because we had 3 folks. So we just kind of, we had burgers was 1 repeat. So we obviously chose that for our first selection. And then we just kind of said, okay, that sounds good for number 2 and 3.
That's great.
It doesn't make a very good meal.
So Joost, if you can move those over to the next board. This is great. I see that you had a challenge with no themes really. So you improvised, and that's the key, right? And you had a small enough group where you could come up with some sort of consensus. Breakout room 2, can you share what you came down with and what that experience was like?
Well, I've been there. So we saw that chicken was a common theme. And first we put chicken in general, but we wanted to like hone in on the type of dish that we would eat. And so we did emoji voting within the Post-it notes, and then we landed on chicken tacos. And then the second choice was pizza, but it makes sense to now order chicken pizza. And then the third was just broccoli salad that we had another upvote via emoji.
Broccoli salad, excellent. Well, listen, folks, in the interest of time, I'm going to read out the rest of them so that we can move on to the next section. Breakout room 3 had pizza, sushi, and ramen. Awesome. And then we had pasta, fries and chips. Fries chips. Yes, because in England they call fries chips. Got it. Dumb New Yorker thinks everybody speaks the same as we do. Anyway, vegan sushi, another good one. And then for this one, ooh, this is interesting. Asian, because they had a theme of curry and sushi, it looks like. Love it. Italian and fast food. Fantastic job, room number 5. And then we have sushi, stew, and fast food again. Stew is interesting. Why is Jamaican oxtail stew not its own card? And pho, goodness, that deserves its own like emphasis. All right, we're going to move these items over. I would love for you all to follow my mouse, and I see that Joost already started to organize the items that you winnowed down in your breakout rooms for brainstorming ideas. And I would love for you to come to this room. You have, let's make it 2 votes. You have 2 votes, and you could take a circle and put it on the item that you think is the food that's most available in your location. So the dimension that we're looking at now is, the prompt is, what is a food that's readily available in your location? And we're looking for some sort of majority rule here. I wonder if I should have prompted the inverse, right? Like, what is not available in your location? And then we could have eliminated them, Joost.
That's all right. I think everybody just goes to the closest one from the dots. You see the pattern.
I'm from New York. All of this is available to me, I must say. Okay, we can see already sort of a heat map on sushi and pizza, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. So if we move to the next board, let's see if we can pull these items in again, Joost.
Yeah, sorry. Oh shit, now
No problem.
so
No problem.
that's
Yeah,
I
we'll
was
do a
just
little.
I got too enthusiastic with making also the emoticons from all
Hey,
the food.
Yost, a quick tip. A quick tip. If you select
Yeah.
everything, then you can
Yeah,
filter.
yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
that'll be super quick.
Yeah.
What was that?
So right now, to delete all the dots at once, you can just highlight and select everything, and then an item will come up. It'll allow you to filter by item type. It'll select all the dots, and you can delete them all at once.
Yeah.
So filter objects.
Yeah.
Ah,
Also for locking, this is the golden tip.
Fantastic. That's a great tip. Now I'd like you to vote on the items, clean slate, that is within your budget. So the two dimensions I chose to look at is what is accessible and what is within most of the people's budgets. So please come to the second prioritization 2 board and and vote on the item that is most in your budget. Now I'm going to step back. Interesting. And I could already see, I'm actually going to move these over, that sushi and pizza are getting a lot of hits. As the items that are most accessible and available. Pasta looks like it's in my budget, but not nearly as accessible. Burgers are in my location and kind of in the middle. So we could have done this in the 2x2. So what's happening here is I just broke it out into 2 steps so that I could illustrate what happened. I wasn't sure what the level of tech savviness in this room was, but we could have just one by one picked what the winnowed down items were and one by one plotted each one based on accessibility and budget. But what I did was I sort of crowdsourced this through votes very quickly to get the 2x2. And the 2x2 is the ones that I'm going to concentrate on are the ones in this quadrant, the ones that are most accessible and in most of people's budgets. So you see right away, I was able to get a decision through some sort of consensus and by winnowing things down. Now, the final thing that I wanted to illustrate for you is say these items were still not, we didn't have a final consensus and we didn't want to look at these through these 2 dimensions, or it's different for everybody. What I want to do now is break you out into, let me just fix this for a second, is break you out. We're not going to break out into rooms, but what I'm going to do is we just showed you a manual vote. Now we're going to do a feature in Miro that's called voting. So I'm going to close this window here. If you could all look at my screen for a second. There's this thumb icon right here. And what we're going to do is call this the final vote. I'm going to give you, let's say 30 seconds, 35 seconds. You all get one vote per person, and I only want you to vote on sticky items. And we have these sticky items here in this 2x2. So all of you will now vote on this sticky item, one vote. And it will set a timer for 35 seconds, and you could go and we'll have our final decision. So vote now, and you could see how this works.
And this is another very difficult vote. I will tell also a little bit a nice story in between. I heard from a participant 2 months ago in a workshop that she was like, for the first time, she really felt heard in a workshop because of the voting tool. Because she had the best idea, which was top voted, and this was a very introvert, silent person, and suddenly her idea was the winning one and would be executed. So that really gave me goosebumps that the really introvert people get like a big say by using this voting tool, which of course, you know, the best idea will be voted, which is a very powerful tool feature of Miro.
I'm sorry, I had to restart the voting. So it is starting, it restarted, so please go ahead and vote. If anyone's having trouble voting, please unmute yourself and let us know.
We do have a first vote results though, Roxanne.
We do?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there is a
Oh.
winner.
Okay. So maybe I should, it says that I have 10 votes left. So for this second session, 10 people didn't vote. So I wanted to show you that this is a way that we could really encourage people to vote, to make sure everyone has an equal vote. Miro has this feature as a timer, and it makes facilitation that much easier. So I'll just stop then, Joost, and end this and see voting area 2 and voting for all. And for all, voting
I had
2.
trouble voting the second time, but it was able to vote the first time. I don't know
Okay.
what happened.
I apologize. I think that was my fault because I went wide on the whole screen and then I restarted the session on a smaller screen. So apologies.
I put a screenshot with the voting result from the first one in. So we have a clear winner with Sushi, 8 votes.
Fantastic. And Miro gives me the results as well. There's the screenshot. So there you have it, folks. We have a very wide, diverse set of opinions about food, and we came up with one food that we can order for all. Now, this is what's interesting about getting buy-in. Maybe sushi isn't accessible to all. We could clearly say we could at least try to order the top 2 or the top 3 with the most votes, right? So we don't have to, we can decide as a group what is best, what is the most effective decision for us all. And we could come up with those metrics, but we've reduced some of the cognitive load in the decision-making process. All right. So we're going to pause now. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. And what we'd love to do, well, Joost, I'll let you tell everybody, but let's do it quickly so we could get our retro happening.
Definitely, yeah. So for the people that are comfortable with it, of course, body language is an essential part of meetings, and you lose it completely almost with Zoom. So there's just a really speed course body language in Zoom, especially very useful for big meetings. So if you do this is actually sign language for applause. After a great presentation, for example, you can applaud your colleague or your co-worker and really give them the sign. And then, of course, you can also give a high five in Zoom. So I want to practice this with you. But it would be nice if you can put on your camera, because otherwise it's a little bit difficult. So let's practice a high five in Zoom. So if you make the Zoom full screen, you will see you're surrounded now by people from all over the world. I saw Russia, I saw somebody in Amsterdam, of course, LA. And let's see how we can do a Zoom high five. So it's quite basic. So you do like sides, up, down. So sides, the people to your sides, one up, one down. That's it. Let's do it all together. A Zoom high five that you choose sushi as the winning food. And that's it.
All right, that was awesome. Okay, back to our, so we're going to close out this session with a little bit of a reflection, a quick reflection. If all of you can go back into the rooms that you were assigned, and we don't need to go into breakout rooms, but if you could map your room number in your breakout room to the Miro frame here, we would love to get your thoughts very quickly and spend maybe 2 minutes. A framework I like to use is liked, learned, lacked, longed for. What did you like about the workshop? You could put as many stickies as you want or none. What did you learn? What was lacking for you? And what do you wish we could have gone? Usually lacked is something that we did, but we didn't do enough of, and longed for is something that was completely omitted. So please go ahead in any room. It really doesn't matter, but we would love if you can write your thoughts. And I will give you all 2 minutes. Actually, I'll give you 1 minute and 30 seconds. And we would appreciate your most candid thoughts. And again, we won't trace it to who it is. You could be as open, give us the good, bad, and ugly. This will be great feedback for Joost and I, as well as with the Miro facilitators, to look and see what worked well with this workshop and what we could have done better. Have about 50 seconds left. I love to add that I have a retro playlist on my Spotify, like thinking music. And it always becomes a big argument of what style of music to play while people are thinking. So it kind of works against me. Okay, 20 seconds left. About 10 seconds left. Try to finish up your last thoughts. All right, folks. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. We have just 2 more things to cover before we close out. I just wanted to summarize what we did today. We discussed meeting frameworks. We talked about Miro features and the kind of features that can help maximize participation. We talked about meeting best practices like dump and sort, affinity grouping, voting, breakout rooms, 2x2s, and a reflection or retrospective. And the features that really kind of aid in these things is the visual notes for designing your meeting, the slides and the frames. Stickies obviously do a lot of helping, condense thoughts. We use the timer, we did a manual vote, and we did an automatic vote. These are all great features that Miro has to help you have the best meeting that you can have in this very limiting virtual setting. So with that, thank you so much. I hope you got something out of this meeting. I look forward to looking over these reflections with our Miro facilitators. The very, very last thing we want you to do at the very top of the hour is if you could rate this meeting before you leave, and if you could give us ideas in this last frame, in this last board, for what you would like to see in the future. And I really appreciate your time. Joost and I had a lot of fun hanging out with you. And yeah, I hope you got a lot out of this.
And if you want to dive deeper into Miro, I shared in the chat 2 links, which are really, really great. The Miro Academy, it's really packed with useful stuff, and Miroverse, lots of great templates to work with. I saw as one of the comments lacking. Go to templates lacking, go to Miroverse, and you'll be amazed. There's over 200 templates that you can use. Just with one push on the button, you have your own workshop.
Thank you so much, Roxanne and Joost. Thank you for facilitating a great session today. And thank you everyone for your active participation. You really brought this board and this session to life. I did notice, yes, some questions about maybe some more tips and features and tricks. Definitely check out those links that Joost provided, Academy and Miroverse. You can also check out Miro's webinars, our YouTube channel as well. I'm going to put a link to this YouTube video, which is a webinar that goes through all of the meetings and workshops features. So if you really want to dive in more to the features, that will be a great resource for you as well. Thank you everyone today for joining. Hope you loved it, and we look forward to reviewing your feedback.